The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hola, very warm welcome to the VAR show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. Today we are going to continue with interviews, and we have the director of Ipso, that is International Professional Scouting Organization, Mr. Colin Chambers, with us. Mr. Colin has over 20 years of experience in scouting, so without wasting much time, I would like to first thank Mr. Colin Chambers for coming on the show. Thank you and welcome to the show. And on that note, I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what are you doing these days?
Yeah, it's all good. Well, obviously, because of the pandemic, we've had to change our outlay and we're doing everything by webinars at the moment. Hopefully, in September, we have a course booked at Manchester and that should be our first one. You know, we have to see how it goes. We have to go to the coronavirus rules, etc., etc.
Definitely. So, and you have been a scout yourself, in various capacities in different clubs. And how did IPSO come into existence?
Well, it come into existence because when I was out, I've been scouting for 20 years, and when I was out there scouting, when I saw other scouts and I saw other scouts were not trained up and sometimes just not talking the talk like you would do. Basically, what I'm trying to say, there was a lot of scouts being given jobs with no training. And then sometimes when you've done this job for a long, long time and you've made all the mistakes and you hear other guys talking and they're going to make a mistake with what they're saying, I come up with an idea of why don't we design a course to train these people properly, to give them a head start, because there were no scouting courses. So that's where it evolved from, through from my view, lack of knowledge from a lot of people just having a go at scouting. And that's where it evolved.
So, talking of how you evolved the course and you wanted to have a course for everyone so that they don't make mistakes. Do you have only one particular course at IPSO or is it like multiple things?
No, it's multiple because scouting is multiple. There's all different types of scouts and basically you've got scouts at grassroots, okay? And if I go through the rundown, a professional football club should have scouts at schools, so at young, small schools, then leading up to colleges and universities, and then amateur games, semi-professional, etc., etc. So there should be different scouts at different levels. So at schools, you've got your grassroots scouts, and they're basically looking at anything from 6 years of age upwards. And then as you start to, get into around, I don't know, let's say 10 to 14, then you're talking about kids going to academies. It's different in different countries. Some people start at 6, some start at 10. There's a lot of arguments at this moment in time. Kids are too young to be going to professional clubs, etc., etc. So you've got to start at the bottom. And then as you work your way up, and then you go into semi-professional football, just coming out of grassroots, and then you go into professional football, you start to see the seriousness of it and the knowledge that's needed to be a professional scout in the modern game.
So definitely, and that's one thing that I wanted to ask is you have a lot of courses which deal with maybe youth academy or maybe even scouting, to name a few. So is your course widely accepted all around the world?
Yeah, we are. Our courses are covered by the YMCA Awards, which is a worldwide certification, and they endorse us because they're education specialists. So we make sure that our Talent ID, our level 1 and level 2 courses are all covered. So it's a proper education qualification sort of thing.
So I just saw on your website that you have collaborated with a lot of countries, the associations of countries. So, how difficult was it, starting the company and all the way, collaborating with so many countries? How has the journey been?
Oh, it's been up and down, like everybody starting a business. You get some people saying, why do we need scouts? We can scout a player. We don't need to be taught. You know what I mean? Especially with people with coaching badges and stuff like that. They automatically think if you've got a coaching qualification, you're automatically a scout. In a lot of ways, you are, because you're a lot more knowledgeable than other people. You've got your coaching background. When we're talking about scouting, it's completely different. You're analysing, it's being an observation specialist in scouting.
So definitely, and like I also had this doubt or this question, when I was preparing questions for you. Like, did you always want to become a scout or an opponent analysis?
No, I tripped up on becoming a scout. I tripped up, to be fair. I was lucky enough to meet a guy called Ted Davis, who to me was the best scout I've ever met and seen. He's forgotten more than I know today. And he sort of showed me the ropes, and the courses that we've designed with help of other scouts are really based on how he trained me up. So, and they're very, very intriguing courses. And there's different knowledge in different courses. For example, a talent ID, which is looking at kids from the age of 6 all the way up to under 23 football. It's a different outset when you're looking at a kid, because you're looking for potential. And they've got so much missing, and you're just trying to round it off. Which kid should you select before another kid? And there is a selective process, just to narrow it down, because it's not just a case of picking the biggest, strongest and fastest. If you just pick the biggest, strongest and fastest, it's those kids who's going to get picked all the time. Sometimes, what about the small, intelligent one who's making all the right runs and movements clever, and he's seeing things before others, etc., etc. And we point all these out. And on our Talent ID course, which is the first course, it's all about age-specific scouting. Not looking for too much in a player when they're young, or not looking for too little. It's just getting the balance right. And those are the sort of things that we're going to show you on the courses. And we're basically showing you how to not make mistakes. You're always going to make a mistake in scouting, always. And the reason why you make a mistake usually is the attitude of the player will change. So I've recommended hundreds and hundreds of players. And then players further down the line, their attitude changes because they get money, and there's nothing a scout can do about that. But the bottom line is, it's getting the right players in. Yeah. And so when you're looking at potential and you're looking at ability and understanding game knowledge, all this is what a scout has to do. And this isn't, forget about football. This is any sport. This can be volleyball, this can be netball, this can be hockey, it can be anything. It's about observing, like I said, I keep saying observation specialists, because that's what they are. Understanding the game, understanding what's right, what's wrong, different jobs, etc. And this is what we teach. But again, there's a starting point, and it's completely different looking at a kid for potential than it is for a first team player at £10 million. You know what I mean? So it's completely different. And then when we start getting a little more technical, you're going into the team assessments, match reporting. Then we're starting talking like Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho, the tactical side. And it's fascinating. And that's what I love about the job.
So definitely, and again, you said, everyone does make mistake, and mostly all the successful scouts will have had their mistakes too. So in your, you have come across so many people who have taken up your course in so many countries. What was the common mistake you found out when you were dealing with them in first hand, or even in UK when you were dealing with scouts? What are the common mistakes that you find out a young scout makes?
The biggest mistake they make is judging a player off one game. No, there's no scout in the world can honestly say, I can see a player in one game. You can't. You can, which sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but you'd be foolish to see someone play really well in one game and say, that's him, sign him. Because then you can go to 3 or 4 other more games, and that player just has one really good game. And I've done it. I've made that mistake. And I've seen lots of people make that mistake. Judging people too fast, judging people too quick, judging people too slow, and you've missed out on a player. And all this is taught on the courses.
So when you are going to scout a young player, what are the criteria that you look for in the player?
Well, again, there's that many different criteria because there's that many different positions, and then when you talk about criteria, you're talking about at a certain age, the player should be this good. At a certain age, you shouldn't be this good. And at a certain age, you should be this. And this is, so when you talk about criteria, it changes all the time. And this is why it's such a fascinating job. And people don't realise that how much in-depth knowledge you need to be a good scout. And when they come on the course, it sort of opens their eyes, it sort of slaps them across their face, because they realise they've never seen all this knowledge that you need to know to improve, to improve yourself as a person, to improve yourself as a coach. And many countries that we've been to, especially with the India and especially Estonia, they've started to realise that our courses actually help coaches improve. Because if you can observe a player faster, quicker, sharper, then you can coach him quicker, faster, sharper, because you can see where the problems are.
So, you have also been a match opposition analyst. So, in that capacity, does your scouting style change according to the change in manager?
Yes, it does. Because when you work under different management, whether it's the first team manager, whether it's the chief scout, they'll have different philosophies, they'll have different ways of looking at players, they'll have different processes, they'll have different mindset. They'll want a certain type of player to suit the club. A quick example is Barcelona. We all know how Barcelona play. They play the beautiful game, tiki-taka. But if you try to play it that way in certain leagues, you're going to struggle because of the way it is. It's a physical league, Everybody wants to play the beautiful game, the tiki-taka Barcelona way, but it doesn't always work like that. And then you see statistics on TV at the moment, and everybody's talking about keeping the ball. But yet you go watching games and teams are having 75% of the ball and losing consistently.
Definitely. And moving on from that, in you have a lot of experience scouting over 20 years, as you said. So did you have any moment where you were like, wow, this is a very good talent, and you recommended it to some team and he did not pan out to be a good player?
Oh, right. A good player. Yeah, there's a few, but usually when you do it properly, there's not many mistakes that we made, apart from when their attitude changes. So there is one or two players, where I've recommended, but let's say when they were 18, they were like Paul Pogba. Let's just use Paul Pogba as an example. Paul Pogba, we all know, is a fantastic football player. I saw him when he was 17 playing for Man United. Everybody knew he was going to be a superstar, etc., etc. One of the best players I've ever seen at his age. But would you have him now? Would you have him now at Real Madrid? Would Real Madrid buy him? Because his attitude's a bit, let's just say, not always focused. So you don't know what you get. It's a little bit like players like Pogba. If they play to their potential, you'd have them every week. You put them in the team every week. You don't know what you're going to get. It's a bit like a roulette. One game he's going to be good. One game he's having a poor attitude. One game he's switched off. Next game he's a superstar, best player in the world. So this is the problem. And again, many times scouting's about facts. So when you do the job properly and you're covering every angle of facts, the facts don't lie at that moment in time. But time changes. People change. Players change. And this is a big thing. People don't realise this. Even when you see a bad player, you shouldn't write him off because he could change. So how many times have I seen a bad player and gone, he's no good, and then 2 years later I go, oh, he's coming on now because his attitude's changed, he's working hard, he's training hard. But this is why the word scouting, you've got to watch, you don't just scout one game, you scout a few. You've got to monitor players all the time, it's all time. And you've got to be observant, and you've got to understand that the player changes. If you don't, and we explain all this on the courses, it's not about getting the player, it's about minimizing mistakes. If you can minimize mistakes, it's going to be profitable for you.
So, you have been in the game for quite a while, 20 years is not a joke. So what are the major changes that you have seen, maybe in terms of scouting from when you started to now?
Well, now the scouting has become a lot more serious now. There's a lot more scouts out there, but there's a lot more scouts now. If we go into the professional game, there's a lot more scouting from video. Where in the old days, everybody had to go to a game. There's nothing wrong with scouting from a video, but you can't see the full picture. You can get an idea of a player. When you're at the game, you can start to see his attitude. You can see his eyes when he's looking at the manager, when he's taking it in, when he's not, you can hear him speaking. There's so many things you can see at the game where the camera moves and it moves off the player, and positional wise, there's so many different things. But video scouting is massively coming to the game now because if I want to look at a few players, say you recommended a player in India, and you could get a video of him, it saves me a £1,000 flight and a hotel, etc., etc. So it's common sense. So you'd watch him, but you wouldn't watch one game. This is where people make the mistakes. They watch 40 minutes, or they watch the highlights or his best bits. It's crazy. I could put you loads of video clips together of a really bad player, but all his best bits, and you'd think he's a good player. And vice versa. We could do it the other way around. I could show you the bad bits, but realistically, he's a good player. So video is coming into the game massively now with Y-Scout, Instats, Prozone, etc. There's loads of things. I think it's great, but it's only to cast your eye over, not to make a decision. But statistics is coming into it now massively, which is brilliant because I'm a big fan of statistics. But again, on the courses we explain this. If you use them correctly, massive help. If you use them wrong and you don't know what you're doing with the statistics, it's a big, big problem.
So, the one thing I wanted to ask you is, like, in UK, of course, you have, in Europe, in generally the top 5 leagues, you have a lot of importance being given to scouts. But maybe somewhere like India, where you were there to organize your courses, what was your impression on the importance given to scouting?
Well, they're keen. They're wanting to learn. They're wanting to get into it. I think it's brand new in India, realistically. When I did a few courses with the AIFF, fantastic people, fantastic, wanting to learn, really hungry for knowledge. Very similar to the Chinese people. The hunger for knowledge was very impressive, and they wasn't arrogant in a way like I'm a coach and I know it all. It wasn't like that, or I'm a scout and I know it all, or a manager, or whatever you want to call it. What they were all ears, and they was taking the time, taking it in, digesting the knowledge, and then going, do you know what? That's good. That's good. And they're starting to realise the benefits and the profits from what we're delivering. And that's why we're doing well, and that's why we partnered up with the AIFF.
So, again, I want to branch out from the scouting part and to, since you are also experienced in being an opposition analyst. So, do you analyze the opposition throw-ins also, that nowadays, because you have throw-in coaches, do you analyze the throw-ins also?
To a certain degree, of course you do. Yeah. Everything's a throw-in's a set play, if you think about it. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the park. People move around, and it'll be, if they do one certain type of throw, they'll do it again in the next game. So if you're aware of it, you can nullify that throw. When you're talking about long throws in the box, you know what I mean? Everybody knows what that's about. It's about a flick on and somebody comes in and heads it in. So there's a target. So yeah, everything's got to be covered. This is the way the game's gone now. It's attention to detail. That's our motto. Attention to detail wins you a game of football.
So, in terms of scouting, what is the biggest myth associated with scouting?
Biggest myth, that you can see a player in one game. That's crazy.
You said that, and do you, you don't have to mention names, but do maybe scouts of big clubs, do they still follow that? Like maybe somewhere?
Of course they will. They will do, Lots of scouts out there will be looking at this video now, or listening to me go, oh, I can see a player in one game. Yeah, I can. Everybody can see a player in one game, but it's wrong. Because if you caught that player on a good day, and then you sign him, and I could tell you hundreds of stories where that's happened, it's a myth, so it's wrong. I'd be daft to turn around and say, no, you can't see a player off one game. Yes, you can, to a certain degree, but you've got to back it up by covering it with 3 or 4 games. But I don't like to say I can see a player off one game, because you'll make a mistake.
So, in your experience and in your career, which was the best scouting story that you have?
Oh, well, I'll give you best scouting story. I'll give you one story, but this is a no-brainer, to be fair. Jamie Vardy was a very easy to spot. And we all know about Jamie Vardy, how famous he is now. And not just me on my own, there must have been 100 scouts spotted him. You know what I mean? But it's the decision makers who make the decision whether to sign him. And Leicester City's decision makers were better than everybody else's and faster, so they signed him. So when I saw Jamie Vardy in non-league, for someone as experienced as myself to turn around off, and it was one game, I said, he's a chance, that player has a chance of making it. But when I did my report, I couldn't word it that way because I had to sit on the fence a little bit and asking the question, was this, I've seen him one game, and was it a one-off that he played so well? Was it a one-off that he scored some goals? But when I watched the second game and the third game, it rubber stamped it. And that's scouting, covering it, yeah? So Jamie Vardy was a very easy one to spot, to be fair.
So you said that Jamie Vardy was easy and probably so in hindsight, but why did it take so long for him to come up? If so many scouts saw him and were impressed.
Yeah, but this is the question, isn't it? Why? He started off as a 16-year-old at Sheffield Wednesday. He got released, and then he went into non-league. And in non-league, I'm not saying there's not scouts out there, but sometimes there's an arrogance with the football club, with professional clubs. I don't need to go to non-league, it's too low. No, there's players everywhere. There's just not enough good scouts out there to spot them. This is why we designed Ipso. I think in a non-league in England, if you go into the non-league, there's hundreds of players there. I don't think there's hundreds of good scouts who were trained, because usually in non-league, it's just hearsay of a fan, of an ex-player. Oh, I've seen this player. Oh, he's a good player. He's a good player. And nobody's scrutinising it and looking at it properly.
So, talking of Ipso, what is your goal, maybe in the next 10 years, do you all want to be, what you all see yourself to be?
Well, making a difference. Making a difference, that's what I want to say. I want to see scouting professionalised. I want to see scouts don't get paid a lot of money. They get a little bit used and abused a little bit. It's just, anybody can scout, and it's a bit of a slap of the hand. Anybody can scout, and just give them a few pounds a year, No, if you do it properly, the scouts are a fundamental part of the club. You get good scouts, it's going to save the club a lot of money. Lots and lots of money. So I'd like to see it professionalised somewhere along the line.
So, suppose I'm a young scout, okay, and I had done my diploma in scouting from Barcelona. So, if you had to give me an advice on how to go about scouting, what advice would you give me?
I would say, start with us. Start with Ipso. Get on the pathway. We have a pathway. We have an online course. The online course, it takes about an hour or 2 hours, depending on the student. And it will give you the fundamentals of scouting, all the basics, all the things you need to know while you're going out into grassroots football. Looking at just the basics, because you need the basics. Then, after that, you come onto the Talent ID course. Come onto the Talent ID course, that will open your eyes, and you'll start to learn things that when you're actually at grassroots football or stepping into semi-professional football, etc., you can start to see the progression and how much more knowledge you need. Then you come onto the level 1 course, which is how to work as a scout at a professional club for the first team, which is a massive difference. Then you've got the Opposition Analyst, which is our level 2, which is learning how to analyse the team, how they attack and how they defend, etc., etc. And then we have a new one coming out called Performance Analysis. Yeah, and that's in the middle of being designed as we speak. It's coming out soon. And that's the pathway. And if you do that, you've covered every angle. And if anything new happens in scouting, like it has just recently with video scouting technical, then we fetch another one out. It's all about fetching products out for what the student needs at that moment in time and what they want to be. Some people won't want to be a professional scout. They just want some people just like to go to grassroots, looking for kids. Some people want to go all the way to the top. Some people just want to be an opposition. It's horses for courses. Everybody's different. So we try to offer a course to cover all aspects of scouting. And what people don't realise until they come on the course, how much you need to know to be a decent scout.
So how you work with the AIFF and the Chinese associations, do you all even work with clubs, if any club approaches you?
Yeah, we've worked with Slavia Prague, we've worked with Ludogorets, we've worked with Malmo, we've gone in and trained the staff, Trelleborg, yeah, Millwall, we've worked at Millwall. So we've done quite a few club staff, and we've got plenty more to be coming.
No, maybe if everything turns out to be good, then maybe you can come to Nepal someday.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's the plan. you know, if the Nepal guys there, the association, they just get in touch with me and we can organise something. We'd love to come out there with them.
Definitely, I will recommend you to my whoever I know, possibly in my capacity. And on that note, Colin, I think we'll end the interview here. And thank you so much for coming on the show. And I wish you all the best for your company and as well as your career. Hope to see you soon in Nepal someday. Take care. Stay safe.
Hope so. See you later.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.